Hey, everybody. Today on the Agent Excel podcast, we have our guest. Actually, dude, before we start that, how do I say your last name?
Nathe.
It's Nathe. So Marshal Nathe.
Yep.
Cool. Right on. Hey, everybody. Today on the Agent Excel podcast, we have our guest, Marshal Nathe. What's up, Marshal? How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, brother. How are you?
I'm good. Hey, so I wanted to bring you on the podcast because we did a cross sell together. I was the listing agent. You were the buyer's agent. And, you know, I see these people out there that just have some fire in what they're doing.
Yeah.
And that was something I saw in you. What was cool about that transaction, just to kind of bring everyone up to speed, how we met each other. I had an overpriced listing, I would say, and I knew it. So did my client. Right. And we went through a few different buyers, and the inspection report wasn't the coolest.
Right.
And I remember you calling me up and you're like, you were just so like aggressive, but so in the zone of like, I'm getting this deal done. What do we got to do?
Right.
And what was interesting is we were getting like the feedback from other realtors, and they'd be like, oh, this house is overpriced, or, oh, this house is a little bit overpriced. And you just straight like attacked it. And I was like interested. I was like, man, it's so weird. Like, we're in such a competitive market where everybody thinks everything's going for way over. And you just went in with speed, energy. And I was like, this is a guy that I want to bring on because you're hungry and you're willing to make a deal happen. So that's how we met, just so all the listeners can know. So that's why I brought you on. So just explain to me like your current setup right now, like what's your operations that you have going on, and just like what's your business look like?
Okay. So specifically in the real estate space?
Sure.
Okay. Well, we can dabble on all of it. But so specifically in the real estate space, I started my company, Bridgestone Homes, about 6 months ago. Prior to that, I had a mentor that kind of really got me started in the space and really started to teach me kind of how to really be a decent agent. Because as you and I know, we're few and far between nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
The level of entry, I mean, it's very unique. I think you and I discussed this, but the hours required to get a real estate license is less than it takes to actually be a hairstylist. And it might have been you who said that to me. But I actually looked it up and I was, holy hell, he's right, which is kind of crazy. I mean, because a lot of people are taking a legal representation on somebody's behalf and they have absolutely no fucking idea what they're doing. So when I got started, I was pretty fortunate. I started with a brokerage that it was old school, go to open houses, text your sphere of influence, I'm a real estate agent, and go twirl your thumbs. That was about it. Or, hey, if you want to go hold an open house for one of my listings, go ahead. And our transaction is very similar and very authentic to who I am as a person. Pretty much, to say bluntly, is I don't fuck around and I don't twirl my thumbs. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to be the best at it. And growth is going to be immediate, or I start losing my mind, which neither way is good. So when I started, I wasn't growing at the speed I wanted. So I stepped away. I found my mentor. We ended up not seeing eye to eye as far as personalities go, just being a person. Our business ventures, the way we did business were different, but he was a fantastic agent. He was very successful, or at least what I compared to be successful compared to where I was. And grew with him for about 18 months and started Bridgestone Homes about 6 months ago. And then from there, my MBA side, the business side really took over when that came to like systems, stuff like that, and actually implementing the different specifics. You have growth, lead gen, conversion rates, data, and I mean, you take it to a whole different level, which is why I grew such a quick respect for you, is because if you don't know your data, you can't grow, because then you're just spinning circles. It's like, if you don't have the details, there's really no point. And that was kind of how my mentor grew. There was no data. There was you go grind, go put your head in the toilet and just pedal as fast as you can, try to spin around. It just wasn't viable to who I am, because I'm a very high energy, high, I wouldn't say high anxiety, but high energy, high level of, thinking, I would say, and high level of production. So if I don't have a specific schedule, and if I don't have, whatever my day looks like set out, I'm losing my mind, man. I can't get anything done.
So what got you into real estate, man?
Honestly, authentically, the money. So I actually, when I was finishing my MBA, I was going to go to law school, and I was practicing I actually took the the LSAT, did really well, could have gotten a 4-year scholarship to law school. So I have some smarts left after all my football days, but past that, it was, I recognized that I had to go into almost $500,000 in debt to go to something that really still takes years of leveling up and what I would call ass kissing to go to wherever you want to go. It's not like the entrepreneurial space where if you figure something out or you just have simply just the determination to figure something out, you can grow pretty quick. I mean, relatively, what you've done in your experience in real estate's unbelievable. And comparatively, what I've done in 6 months with my company, I'm pretty proud of myself. And
Sure.
and that's totally different. But going to law school, you have to go through the steps. And I recognize this Joe Schmo. This one agent I was talking to once upon a time. I was like, how much did you make this year? The guy's a total idiot, to put it bluntly. And he made like 110 grand. And I was like, holy shit, that's a lot of money. So I stepped into the space and I was like, I want to make a lot of money. And then from there, obviously, the goals change. Now it's not nearly as much about the money as much as it is making sure my team and the people who trust me to lead them are provided for. I mean, yeah. So
that's cool that you said, what got you in was the money. I mean, when I started, it was that. I mean, I remember going to a bunch of classes and it was always like, what's your big why? And
right.
we would sit in these classes and it was like, as if we were going to solve world hunger and everything else. And I was just like, when I got in, I was 22 and I'm like, I'm trying to straight cash in.
I just want to make money.
But what's crazy is people don't think they can say that and don't think that people can appreciate it, is what my thoughts are. I think they feel like they have to do something bigger. And I'm like, you know what, if I can provide for my family and I can get into a secure place, that means I can give back more. I can donate more money. So it's really, to me, it was like, I'm just trying to cash in. And, I think some people think like, that's not what you can say. And I'm like, I was totally willing to say it. I don't know if it was my age of getting into real estate, but I was like, this is what I'm trying to accomplish. I'm trying to cash in. And I'm also trying to offer a good service to clients. And those can go hand in hand. Like me going out and doing a good service for my clients can also be me making really good income. And so I'm glad that you said it that way, because when I ask people that question, a lot of times it goes into a lot of other directions. And I think 99% of the people would say like, I wanted financial freedom or time freedom.
Money. You just want to make a shit ton of money, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, because the whole point is, if you're making a shit ton of money, that means something that needs to be handled. They're going to need to buy and sell a house. I mean, everybody fucking moves. It's going to need to happen. So if you're making a shit ton of money, that means you're good at it. And that means you're taking care of people where, in retrospect, if they didn't have you, they could be getting screwed. I mean, even when you told me at dinner, you're so confident in who you are and the service you provide. I mean, the rest takes care of itself. And I'm so confident and that's why I'm so comfortable saying that I originally got me in because of the money, was because I wanted to make a lot of money, but I knew I had to be good at what I did. I knew I had to take care of people and really have a passion for providing value that they wouldn't have otherwise. And then the money came.
Yeah. I found that if I was running an honest shop, that I could say it was about the money. Now, if I wasn't running an honest gig, then that's where it could go sketchy. But yeah, so I'm glad you said that, man. So how is your setup right now? I know we've talked a little bit offline. I know that we met through that transaction. We went to dinner but I remember you telling me that you had, you had a team that you were working around. What does that look like for you right now?
So I I just brought on my third agent. I'm very, very, very selective. I don't bring anybody. I'm the type of guy where I remember what it was like when I started and having to struggle, like not really knowing what it was and not knowing how to having the assurance, like guys like you and I, if everything went belly up, our whole systems, we can still, because just our skills we've developed and the information we know, we can still go make money. Even if I go wholesale or I go flip properties. I mean, my bills are paid just because of the knowledge I have. I didn't have that starting. So I have 3 agents. I would rather drown them with business than hire on too many agents. And from there, we have a virtual assistant who rips our phone calls. And then I have my right-hand girl, Lisa. She is like the boss when I don't want to be the boss.
So when did you take your first leap into having any type of leverage?
6 months ago.
Okay.
When I really, because I went from, with my previous mentor, it was trust. It was, all right, where are the leads coming from? All right, we're pivoting lead gen again. Okay. All right. Fair enough. But where are they coming from now? I don't know. And that's where it stepped away, because I was not willing to bring anybody on until I had my systems in place. So Lisa was actually my first or second. So I had one of my now agents was a phone caller for me with would set appointments for me with buyer consultations. I would go run them. I would pay them their bonus per booked appointment. And then Lisa came on, and then I was, we're pretty good at this and we're a good team. And I wonder how big we could get with this. So then I brought Lisa on full time, and then my agents are 1099s underneath Hague Partners. And it was time to step away and create my own systems. I had to figure out consistently, where can I get consistent leads? How can I grow to other areas? Like, for example, we're bringing on an agent in Seattle right now. So I had to figure out what kind of leads and what kind of system could then be replicated as an SOP and put in this tight package and put into a different environment. And shit, man, I could barely sleep last week because I had blue light data in my eyes because I've been staring at a laptop, because Lisa and I were literally on our computers for like 12, 14 hours every day, just working on systems, trying to clean this up. And a lot of it was implementing your stuff and just your referral game and the way you think and the way you operate. Like, hey, I've always thought lead gen conversions. How do I get more leads? How do I get somebody to work all those leads? And then how do I slowly increase our conversions? You have the complete opposite piece of the puzzle. You're like, I already have relationships with these people. How do I continue to leverage it, stay in front of them to where every time somebody mentions, hey, I'm thinking about buying, oh, Chris Bowers, or I'm thinking about selling, oh, Chris Bowers. I've never thought like that. I've always thought lead gen. And then now combining the two and creating one powerhouse is what we're working on now, which is easier said than done.
And what's interesting about that is, I've been doing this for 17 years, and I just started doing what you're probably doing about 2.5 years ago. Mm-hmm. So mine was always through referral. So it's always all I knew. And so That's cool that we connected up, because I think if you can take those principles of so my framework was always repeat and referral business. So now as we did what you're doing now, so we built a model around repeat and referral. Mm-hmm. So when we go do these other things like our Zillow account and our pay-per-click and things like that, when we close a transaction, we might be paying some type of fee for that initial transaction, but then we bring that person into our framework. Right. And then we go and get, like when people ask us about our Zillow account, I'm like, yeah, we got to pay Zillow a referral fee. But when you bring, so we're paying to start that relationship and bring them into our framework. And I'm like, I've probably closed, since I started that Zillow account, I probably closed 25, 30 transactions off of just referrals from that Zillow account in the last 1.5 years or so.
Right.
And so I think that
becomes a living and breathing marketing item once you have that relationship.
Yeah. So I think that's cool that you started off with that more like pound the phones.
Yeah.
Because I always look at those agents like as two different agents. And I say like the goal is to try to mold those into one. Yeah. And you want to find the people that know how to just go pound the phones and bring business through. But then when they bring business through, they're not, like, for example, I've talked to some agents and they're like, they have no repeat and referral business, but yet they're closing like 50, 60, 70, 80 deals a year. And I'm like, dude, you got to button that up. Like if you're bringing in 60, 70, 80 deals a year, cause you're just a grinder,
right?
Like figure out now, like once they come through your door, that means like you're just putting all your energy in grinding, which is cool. Right. But now if you can figure out how these people can go throw your name around like every single day, that's when like what I say in like the real estate where like the magic happens. So I'm super stoked. And that's what's awesome about you and why I've had you more on this podcast is, do you know how many people I've like told them I would give them that network system that I have of how I get all my referrals, and how many people have actually like just went through it like you have?
Yeah.
I mean, it's under probably 10 people in the many years that I've said like, hey, here's my whole playbook, take it.
Yeah, dude, which mind blows me. Cause I'm like, even Lise was like, fucking hell, this is good shit. And you literally, you're one of the rare anomalies. Most people aren't willing to just give it away because they're, I'm training my competition. But dude, I'm a firm believer in what goes around comes around. And I have no doubt already how successful you've been, because now you and I are buddies, and now we have a network, and I'm going to know people, and you're going to know people, and then
Right.
we make our people know each other, and it grows from there. So, dude, it mind blows me that people don't take advantage of the literal, like, it's a hard word. It makes me speechless, obviously, but the literally step by step. Hey, do this. Call this person. Then do this.
So
explain
that a little bit, what you're doing now. And then after you explain that, let's go back to like what you're currently doing, like what you've been doing before we met. But like, since we've met, like, what are you implementing? That's like, what are you trying to do right now?
Okay. As far as yours?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's start there. So then what we've been working on is your monthly postcards. You touch a single client 42 times a year. And that's genius. But but the whole point is I never understood how to do it in a sexy way to where you're not just sending somebody 42 texts unnecessarily every fucking year. So what we really had to put together is and that's what I couldn't figure out for the longest time. And then you gave me the playbook. So right now what we implement is we put together our postcards. We're setting up our Indicia, whatever it's called, the mailing order.
Mm-hmm.
We put together our New Year postcards.
Okay.
We have also implemented all our sphere into HomeBot, which is huge because that's so passive. What the fuck? That's easy as shit. But when I've had it for months, and the only thing we were really thinking about was it was so just not at the forefront of our mind when it's such an easy way, even if that's all you do. I mean, it's like $25 a month, and it just every month. And most people look forward to it. Oh, how much has my house increased this month? And they're always going to think or see Chris Bowers with us, Bridgestone Homes. They're always going to see that. Even if you don't implement anything else. So we tightened up HomeBot. I had to go through because some of the adjusted price points for those properties are not accurate. So I actually got a couple pissed off calls. What do you mean my house is worth only $605? Well, hold on, let me fix that because that's not accurate. But
do you know what's funny about that is we don't adjust those. But what I do is I look at things differently. Not that you're not, but like here's how I look at it. Like when those people call me, it's just an open conversation. I'm like, the point of that was to get somebody to call me. And if they were like, hey, the home value's off, I'm like, oh yeah, like this is just like an algorithm. Let me update that for you. It's almost like I just don't look at that stuff as bad news. I'm like, hey, if this person got my email and called me, like I now didn't have to call them. They initiated a conversation. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying just, but you can see where like my perspective is a little bit different. If somebody has the time, I would say update it, but you can see also where it's not a huge deal if it's not. But yeah, I'm glad that you're using that just to kind of explain that to the listeners. Like my reasoning was like, for example, I was looking up like some running shoes the other day. And I am being outside of like, is the brand Saucony? Like the running shoe, I think it's Saucony. I am being almost virtually harassed by Saucony, the running shoe. Okay. It's like when I'm on social media, Instagram, Facebook, like it's everywhere. Outside of them calling my cell phone. And I'm like, how much are they spending on me just Googling running shoes?
Right.
And so like, that's what they're trying to do right now. So like, I always looked at that in real estate. Like, how can I do that? And that's why I gave you that plan, because when I sat down at one time, I was like, what can I do? Because I can't call, like, I'm just not the person. I'm not going to call you 40 times a year. It's not my style. I'm not going to text you. So I said like, hey, what's a blend to get this done? Like, what's a blend to stay in contact with someone 30 to 40 times?
Yeah.
And how can and I started off and I was like, what's the cool ways to do it? Like first, like outside of real estate, like birthday, New Year. So I wrote down like all the things that were like the fun things. I was like, okay, that's 3 or 4. And then I went like home values and things like that. That's cool. They want to actually know their home values. Then it was, okay, I'm going to blitz them with just 1 postcard a month. That's pretty leverage, just goes out. So I'm super stoked that you've taken that and just ran with it. I feel like in the next few years, you're going to look back on that and be like, whoa, because I have people who call me all the time. They're like, what's your like superpower? And I'm like, it's that consistently over time. If someone just said like, hey, I'm going to get my real estate license, close deals, and then compound time, that's how this business works. Now they don't want to compound time. You know, they're like, I don't want this to take 16, 17 years. And I'm like, okay, but that's where you're good at it is you grind daily.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, you got to grind to get the income, and then that will start compounding as like an investment over the years. So
Right.
take me back to like before, like, what is your business now? Like, how do you get business to come through your door? How do you transact?
So we have pay-per-click. We have a couple different avenues of leads we get. We send them to our phone caller, whoever your appointment setter is, whether you want to do US-based or virtual assistant. Either one works. It just depends how much you want to spend, and then how capable of a person you can find, because it's all based on ROI. What is it going to cost you? And then what's it going to bring in? What is their conversion rate? How long does it take them to train? What's their startup time? And what's your holding cost to get them to a production stage? And so what I do is I bring in the leads. I send them, for right now, I send them to my virtual assistant, who then calls 6 to 7 hours a day. Hottest time periods between 4 and 7. That's where we get the best response on the leads we operate within. And she books the appointments for my buyer specialists, my consultations for my other agents, to then jump on a call with them and then take them through the step. Now, the way I think about it is, a lot of people think it's make your first connection, get them in homes, try to write a contract. I think about it as a step-by-step. There's a pipeline every lead goes through. Starts as a cold call, then starts to an appointment, and then you go through a pre-qualification where because it's so much simpler to sell the end goal of this perfect, gorgeous home where you and your family get to hang out, live, have memories, and then here's how we get there. You don't overwhelm them with do this, and then this, and then this, and then we can get in contract, and then we can close, and then you can have your keys. But end goal, wow, you're going to have this house with a pool, 2 stories, 4 bed, 3 bath. You're going to have this 700,000, 2,500 square foot house. Imagine what kind of memories you're going to be able to create with your 2-3 kids while they're finishing up school. You guys get to have Christmas parties here with this giant tree in the middle of the room. I mean, create the picture, the image, and then take them. Okay, so how do we get there? This is step 1. Let's jump on a call with the loan officer. Let's jump on right now. Let's merge them in. Let's get you pre-qualified. This is the best place to start, because I can't tell you what the next steps are and what your best avenues of getting to that end goal until I know this information. And then it's simple. It's okay, let's jump on with Ryan. Okay, did you get docs over yet? Okay, then let's work on that. I'll drip you properties, but we can't get into anything till your docs are into Ryan and I have a pre-qualification. So, all right, now we're pre-qual. Okay, what? Let me call my off markets. Let me call my FSBOs. Let me get some agreements for some commissions. We don't do buyer broker. Obviously, I think that's chicken shit if you do that, but to each their own. But start dripping them properties, and then you take them to the showing stage. And then once you're showed, dude, you shouldn't be showing more than 7 or 10 houses, because if not, they're twirling their thumbs. They're sending you on a wild goose chase. And if you haven't written a contract, you need to have a conversation. So don't waste your time, 1. And 2, you got to get really good at communicating with the listing agent, kind of how I did with you, because too many people think of this as, the whole, whatever it's called at the end of their names, like they're skilled in negotiations. They think about it as almost a competition. It's you versus me, where the difference was you and I got from day 1 when we started our transaction. No, this is a group effort. Mm-hmm. We're trying to get you guys a good situation, and we're trying to get my buyers a good situation. And how do we make that happen? So if you come from a space and authenticity within that mindset of how can we have every party part ways happy and content, if you can come from that space, you communicate that to the listing agent, and then it's just, hey, where do I need to be? What do you need? This market's fucking insane. So tell me where I need to be. If I can do it, I will. If not, I don't want to waste your time. So then you save yourself time, you save yourself energy, and you save your buyers heartache. Because how many times are they going to be willing to lose and still be excited to go see the next house?
Right. So what do you find your biggest challenges right now? I mean, we're both in the Phoenix metro area, and I mean, we know that just prices are escalating like no other. I mean, there's certain buyers, and this might be good for listeners. I'm sure it's like this around the country. I do some real estate in Oklahoma, and it's kind of the same way. So in a little town, so I'm sure it's like this everywhere. How are you keeping those expectations with your clients right, and knowing that there's just certain price points right now that are like super aggressive?
Right.
How are you doing that? Because I'm actually, I do this podcast to ask questions just for myself to learn.
Yeah.
And when I'm doing consultations anymore, it's something that I'm really trying to figure out. Like I've got a showing partner that shows homes for me, but like I'm still not trying to waste anybody's time. So do you ever have buyers that come to you and they're qualified and you just legitimately know like, hey, in this market right now, you possibly wouldn't be able to get a house? Like, for example, if somebody came to us right now in our market and said, hey, I want to buy a single family house, $230,000, 1,400 square foot with a backyard, we'd be like, that can't happen, right?
It doesn't exist.
We say that confidently, I feel, because we know that no other agent could even do it. It's so absolute that we're confident and we're secure enough that they could go find another agent and it wouldn't happen. Therefore, we'd have no regret and we wouldn't be embarrassed.
Right.
How are you doing it with the price points right now? Because what I'm finding is there's still that price point. Like it's there, it's in their portals, it's in their searches, but yet like nothing's face value right now. What is 350 sells for 400? What's 400 sells for 450? And, you know, things are escalated with appraisals and things like that, 30, 40, 50 over. When you get that buyer that's in a certain price range that only has that no down or 3.5% and that's it, what's that conversation look like? And I'm actually speaking to learn.
Yeah. So in that situation, I'm very upfront from the get-go where I'll tell them like, hey, here's the situation. 99% of the time, I can tell you exactly where you need to be on a home. Now, what there is there's a certain aspect of just honestly strategizing. Like if you're talking somebody who has 3.5% down FHA, but they can handle a higher monthly payment, what I would do is I would then convince them, hey, this market's fucked. If you want to get into a home, you need to go DPA and we need to use the funds you've saved up as an appraisal gap. Mm-hmm. So it's half of it strategy. And then half of it is being upfront and prepared to have that conversation from day one, where I have that very blunt, very upfront conversation saying, hey, here's the deal. I am really good at what I do, but one, I don't have a crystal ball, and two, I don't have a magical genie that's just going to make that listing agent agree with me. What I can do is 99% of the time, I can find out exactly what their other offers are. And if it's still within our price range, we will win. I will tell you where we need to be to win. And it's just up to you if it's worth it or not. Now, what you do with that, what I've found is that puts the ballpark, it puts the conversation back into their ballpark to where you're saying, hey, it's not up to me. I didn't fuck up if we don't get this house. I'll tell you where you need to be, and it's up to you if it's worth it or not. So then nobody ever comes and gets mad at me, because then I'm saying, hey, here's the best offer they have. Do you want to beat it? Well, Marsh, we can't even go that high. Guys, I understand that. Is there anybody who could maybe give you a gift or something? And then when it most likely, you know, and I know this, it's going to be a no, but you let them come up with that end decision to where you don't risk pissing anybody off and you don't risk them getting scared of continuing to write an offer because they didn't waste any time writing an offer, getting them hopes up, talking about, you know, baby number one is going to be in this bedroom, baby number two in that bedroom. You say, here's their current offer. Can we beat it? Yes, great. Let's write and let's get this motherfucker under contract. If we can't, move on. Find another option. Because at the end of the day, that's where you have to figure out what's your role and what's their role. And our role is to keep them excited and to keep options coming forward. And then once they pick one, your role is to get very realistic and don't throw cheese at the wall and try to see what sticks. Figure out where they need to be and then put it back into their ballpark saying, okay, is it worth it or is it not?
Yeah, I think we do that very similar. I call it the allocation of money. So when they come in to do a buyer consultation with me, I say, hey, you, like, for example, let's say someone comes with 40 G's. Then I say, hey, you thought back in the day, this is the old world. You thought you're coming in with 40 G's and putting 20% down or 10% down. Right. So I just ask them like, hey, what do we have allocated for down payment, right? Like, what do we have allocated for a house right now?
Right.
And then I have like a pie on the chart. And I say, okay, like back in the day, like that was all going to go towards your down payment, some closing costs. Right. Now I'm like, okay, yeah, if that used to be 10% down, we're now doing like 3.5% down. And we're using that money to go over the appraisal waiver. Right. And then letting them know, like, yeah, you obviously want to put more down to keep your payment low. But like I tell them, you pick your challenge right now. You either get a house or a house that's $150 more a month. And so, yes, I know in a perfect world, I'd like to do it this way, but like you're coming to me because I'm a consultant, I'm consulting you on what it takes to get a house. You'll find 32,000 other realtors out there that will just not tell you anything and keep showing you for 9 months until you're like tired. I would rather just be the guy that looks a little dramatic out the gate, but I'm so dramatic because like I care about you.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I've been doing lately in my consultations, and I don't know if it's proper or not, but I let them know, it'd be like, hey, if I was a doctor and someone was coming in with cancer, my consultation can't be based off like feelings. Like I
Right.
care about everybody, but like just because
Right.
it's your birthday today doesn't
Right.
mean I can't tell you you're sick. And
Right.
so I said, like in real estate right now, that's my job. Like I have to, you're coming in, and that magnet on the side of my car that I want to have that says like, I help you buy your dreams.
Right.
That looks cute, but like really my job is I'm consulting you and you're coming to me because I help hundreds of people a year buy a house. And
Right.
so I see on a year, like I see on a daily basis what most agents see in a year. So
Right.
I'm able to give you I have a big sample size of data that I can share with you. And I can tell you like last week's 7 people who wrote offers and what they're getting accepted and what there's not. And I can help you try to get in front of that. So, I mean, I feel like you do the same thing when you try to take them, if they have low money down, trying to take them to like a down payment assistance, stuff like that.
Yeah. Cause it's proper expectations. It really is what it is because you're absolutely correct. This is not like it was even 3 years ago or 2.5 years ago. Once COVID started, it got nutty, and it got nutty fast. And it wasn't like it was where you could go see 7, 8 houses and, write an offer, take your time, slow down a little bit. Let's go sleep on it. It's not like that anymore. It's, hey, if you like a house, time to write. Let's get writing. Let's get something started. Here's what's probably going to happen is you're going to write over appraisal. You need to be comfortable with that. And the way I verb it is you can either try to save some money on the forefront or do what you need to do to get the asset, because this market's not going to slow down. So it's either you lose this one, you pay more for almost the same fucking house, or win, get the asset in your name, let the market do its thing, and then go refinance, HELOC, cash out, do whatever you need to do to bring that payment down to where it makes sense again. But you can't do that until you own the asset.
Right.
And that's the way I verbalize it, is I'm saying, I understand this payment's $200 more than what you want. But guys, what you're wanting does not exist, because this is a crazy market to where you don't have an abundance of cash to go over appraisal value that allows you to then still have a normal down payment. So if you really want to make it work, you need to be comfortable with the fact that you're going to go some form of down payment assistance and use those funds saved up to cover an appraisal gap. And then understand that this market's not slowing down. Let it work for you, but you first need to own the house. Let's get you under contract. Let's put the power back in your hands, and then make it make sense from there. So it's a very intense conversation, as I'm sure you're well aware.
It is. Yeah. It's actually getting more intense. On the consultations, like that's my biggest thing is I'm trying to still make this a fun experience, but I'm also, trying to be very real with them on what goes on out there. So, but I feel, our track record of getting referrals. I mean, if anybody said like, hey, use Bowers, they're going to be like, hey, he's just real. Like he's always going to tell you how it is. And I value that. So I'm like, even if even if the lead goes back to the referral source and was like, hey man, he's super direct, they would probably be like, yeah, that's why we referred you to him. Like that guy, like whatever is going on in the market, listen to him. He's taking you down the right path. Just because the referral source might have bought 9 years ago, they still know like he's going to tell you what's up. So I feel that's like that with you. So where are you finding, like what's your best listing source right now? Like obviously mine's just through my repeat business calling me up. Where are you finding your listings these days?
My referrals are starting to get implemented a little bit. Actually, we one of my buyer specialists are rocking a listing, implementing your strategy. I called a lead I closed on about 18 months ago. Marsh, I've been actually thinking about selling. It's wild you reached out to me. So we got a new build RV garage, 800K price point. We're probably going to be writing a contract on today. I first touched base with him last Thursday, and then I'll be probably listing his house in a month or so.
Nice.
So listing wise is we operate within 72 sold. It's a huge entity here in 72 or here in Phoenix. Whoever doesn't know, if you're listening from a different state.
And if someone's out of state listening, if you live in the Phoenix area, if you just drive on any freeway, or watch a Cardinals game, Suns game,
turn the news
channel
on.
10, channel 3. Like if you just, sometimes I'm like, is Greg talking to me and my TV's off? So that guy is like a marketing genius. So I'm like, if you live in the Valley, you know who this company is. I say they're a lead generation magnet. And I have agents that will go the direction of good and bad, the same as like my Zillow account. They'll go good and bad. I'm like, that's not the conversation I want to get involved in. Like, it's how leads come through the door is the conversation I want to have. And so continue on. But I wanted to stop that for anybody who doesn't know 72 sold. It's everywhere. I'm waiting for you guys to have like bumper stickers on cars.
Dude, he's guerrilla marketing. I mean, and that's really, dude, because I'll be honest, I was one of the ones who hated them for a long time.
Okay.
I didn't like them for a very long time, but because every significant batch of eggs is going to have a bad egg. And I had a lot of bad experiences with some 72 sold agents who did not know how to operate the program and still be a good, ethical, moral, and fair agent. Because there's one thing to use the program and to do it well and to do it fairly. And there's another thing to use the program and be a dick. And I had those people who use the program and use it as an excuse to be an ass and to be lazy. Like there was one homie, I almost slapped the piss out of him myself, he was on the golf course. One of my agents, my newer agents, grinding her ass off, strong buyer. This guy would have been a shoo-in, willing to write what he needed to write. We call him, and I'm trying to figure out what their situation is. We have a buy it now price, where you pretty much just ask, hey, what do I need to do to win? Whatever status we are, coming soon, stock market, whatever. Hey, what do I need to do to win? And I asked him. Dude had no information. And then he goes up, and then I said, well, hey, brother, we're trying to get you a really strong offer. We got some great buyers. They're super fair. They're super strong, 40% down payment. We can do a full appraisal waiver. We got the cash. And then his whole point was, dude, I'm on the golf course, man. I'll call you back. And then I was like, hey, brother, I'm just trying to get some information. He's like, no, you're fucking bothering me while I'm playing golf. I was like, what the? And then I lost my mind. I was like, what the fuck did you just say to me? So then I had to call some of my contacts at 72 sold, and I'm like, who's this dickhead? So,
oh man,
yeah, that one was rough, and that was right when I joined 72 sold too, because I was like, how in God's name are you on this brokerage with me? Because like you're a reflection of me as I'm a reflection of you. The only difference is I give a shit about my people, and I give a shit about being a decent human being. But so sorry, I went on a tangent, but 72 sold, there's always going to be bad eggs. And that's what I thought until I joined. And then there's a lot of genius behind it.
Yeah. Greg's, a marketing genius. It's clear. He spends a lot of money on marketing and gets you guys leads. So that's super cool to see. I always find, what can I do out of that marketing? Like that's how I always look at everything. Like, competitors out there, it's like, what can I do that they're doing? I don't look at them as like, what they're like. Why
screw that guy.
Yeah. Like why? Yeah. It's like, why diss on people? Why not give people props for what they're doing, what they've accomplished? The same with Zillow. I'm like, hey, I guess if I probably had the money and the thought process 15 years ago, I would have did the same thing. Right.
100%.
So I'm like, why don't we just lean into it, find our place in this market with it? And that's really where I think the future of the real estate market's going is it's going to be people who just, you've got to have leads. That's it. And you've got to be able to close transactions. And it's going to be the number one source in anyone's business on a profit and loss is always going to be repeat and referral, right? That's always going to be the number one source. But if you're trying to scale a huge business, after a certain point, you can only organically get repeat and referral to go so high. Your repeat and referral will probably be a reflection of how long you've been in the industry.
Right.
And so, yeah, when I'm 72 years old, I'll probably get 190 referrals a year. But being in the game 17 years, it's going to be about 90 referrals. And so if I want to close 200 plus transactions, you've got to like lean into both sides. So I just give props to everybody who knows how to go out there, and because what he's doing at a high level is just an ROI game. Like this is just, we're not even talking real estate anymore. That's probably the coolest thing is I've got business owners that I hang out with that own all kinds of businesses, plumbing companies, roofing companies. They're like uber successful.
Right.
And really at the end of the day, we're all talking the same thing. Now we have a different maybe product that we're offering or service, but behind the scenes, we're all just talking about like what's client acquisition cost and how much does it cost for us what's our overhead cost to make that client happy? And really the service or the product that we're offering is not irrelevant, but we can see where we can all get in a room as business owners and mastermind about like a common ground, even if we sell something different. So I applaud him for being able to hold that ROI probably accountable, because just like you and I, we do the pay-per-click stuff and all that other stuff. And you really got to have that dialed down. Cause if you're spending, we spend probably $10,000 a month on pay-per-click. And if you don't track that, once you acquire that lead and then pay for someone to service that lead through a commission, you really got to make sure you're holding that accountable, or you could just be closing a lot of transactions and actually making no profit.
Which is pretty wild, where if you're not, and that's the big thing, if you don't know your data, you can lose control pretty quickly.
Yeah. What are your systems that you're using to like keep track of any type of like ROI on stuff, or just like what kind of systems are you using to keep your business together?
Yeah. So right now we're still at the building phase where we're gathering data that actually can legitimize true opinions. Right now, it's a little bit more gung-ho than I want to be. It's more, okay, what's my output? What do I need my input to be? And we know our output to run our operation somewhere around $14,000, 13 and a half. And so I know that I need to make at minimum 4 times that to be able to comfortably not only pay my bills, not only make sure my agents are fed, but also to make sure I have funds left over to expand and to continue to gather that data, grow that actual true percentage of, okay, this lead worked this way, brought me this much money, cost me this much money. Here was my ROI, or here's my net profit compared to what I spent it, whatever you want to call it. However you want to do the data, there's multiple different ways. And so that's where we're really at. It's more I know that cost me 13, 14,000. I need to make a minimum 60. And if I'm not making 60, I am grinding until I'm at 60. And then, okay, I know this month's handled. Now let's make sure that we are tighten up our systems, because I grind really the first 2 weeks of the month. I line up all my deals for the following month to make sure our bills are paid, make sure my agents are getting fed. And then from there, I then backtrace to, okay, lease, what's our next projects? How do we tighten up the systems to make this more automated in the following 30 days, in the following 60 days? So that's really where we're at right now. It's more grind, clean up, grind, clean up. Because even you're much more established than we are here at Bridgestone Homes. We are still heavily in the grinding phase.
But do you know what's cool about that, man, is we are, and I kind of jokingly say it, but it's true, is that personality you have won't change. Like, even though you might look at our systems as buttoned up,
right?
I mean, it's behind the scenes. I mean, system-wise, I mean, our clients, I always will tell my office, our client stuff has to be 100%. Like, their service is all I'm focused on in the day. If that's all of our energy that has to be expended in the day, that's it.
Yeah.
And it goes towards systems. I mean, behind the scenes, I mean, I guess 16 years or 17 years of systems, it can look better than it is, but like, we're still at the same point. Like,
right.
we did it all on spreadsheets for years, and that worked. And I told my wife, like, we have a lady who is a subcontractor that we found that builds our spreadsheets, and I'm just data driven. So I look at spreadsheets, and now, like, I can't get the information even from my spreadsheets fast enough. Cause I always say, like, I want to look, and like, I call it a CEO meeting with my wife and I. Like, I want to sit down for 15 minutes and be able to push a few buttons and make just these calls on certain things. I want to see ROI on that, ROI on agents. I want to see our P&L, and I want to make decisions from that level. And so, like, the spreadsheets, like what you're probably going to implement here soon is what we're using. And now that we've grown out of, so like, we're starting to use we're implementing a system called Sisu, and that's going to keep us together. Nothing that I would actually encourage anyone to go out there and use unless they're just at a higher level of transactions. Right. But I mean, you can just see where it's like what you said, you feel like, it's grind, clean up.
Yeah.
I think that's all there is. Like, if you went and talked to anybody who's being successful in this industry, because what's the alternative? Clean up, grind.
Right.
But what are we going to do? Like, we're going to mop the floor, have a party. Right. I'm like, party. Let's mop up the floor. Like, it's a different perspective of like how you got to go get business. But there are those people that they'll sit down every single day and just be like, oh, I worked 8 hours and put a system together. And it's like, a system for what? I'm like, put system together, break system,
right?
Clean up system, break system. Like, I'm telling my office all the time, like, let's break this system and then let's build another one. So with real estate right now, like, do you have anything going on outside of actually like transacting yourself for your income? Any like investing you're doing in real estate? Is that coming? What are you up to there?
specifically in real estate, or do you just want me to talk about everything I've done?
Anything.
Yeah. All right. So really I have an Amazon business, online shopping. Didn't fully believe in it. A lot of bullshit out there. So if you are interested, make sure you're talking to the right people. But that passively makes me, a good chunk of change, anywhere between 10 and 12. And then on top of that, we're buying into a tourism company in Costa Rica. And then I'm building a resort in Costa Rica as well with my partner, which that will probably put, mid seven figures around there. And we talked about this at dinner is I'm a firm believer in being very upfront with income.
Yeah.
Input, output. I really don't give a shit because it's not going to change what I have going on. But yeah, so that'll bring mid seven figures. And then outside of that, we fix and flip on the side. So I just implemented. So we have Bridgestone International. We have Bridgestone Investments Incorporated, and then we just implemented Bridgestone Homes Seattle. So what we are is we're just creating this brand of this massive network of multiple different entities in different areas of producing passive income. Because the whole concept of passive income is it doesn't always have to be go buy a rental property, you make $600 passive income. It can be go build a business, grind for 6 months, get it figured out, leverage it out, let somebody else run it, pay them really well to run it, and then you have true passive income and you have a growing asset. It doesn't always have to be go buy a house. Go find a need that isn't being fulfilled. Be the networker if you don't got money. I talk about this. You can follow me on my Instagram, Marshal_Nathe. We talk about this all the time. If you don't got money, go be the networker. And the networker is who's bringing the parties together. And from there, create an opportunity. Be ballsy enough and be gutsy enough to think about something big. Okay, how could we do something badass in this space that obviously needs some work? And okay, but I don't have money. Okay, where do I find the money? Okay, but I don't know the people. I have the money, but I don't know the people. Where do I find the people?
Where do you think people, because I'm fascinated by this. So like I have a mastermind coming up in my office on goal setting and taking massive action. And as I'm putting this class together, I've realized that like, are we a rare breed? Can it be trained? Is it born? I'm really fascinated by this because as I'm putting this class together, it seems so basic, right? Like to me.
Yeah.
But I wake up in the day with so much, and I'm ambitiously lazy. Like I am ambitious, like meaning there's so many hours in my day where I'm just, that's Chris sitting over there. Like I'm not extroverted. I'm naturally to myself. But there's something about business that like when I'm on the field for that 4 hours, it's so aggressively getting towards my goal. And as I'm trying to teach this class, so I ask you because you're kind of the same personality as I am. I can just feel the energy from you that like there's not a lot of things that can come in your way that are obstacles, meaning just as many obstacles come in front of me, you, and the other person. But we're just for some reason willing to just plow down that obstacle as if it was set up there for fun.
Yeah, figure it out. I'm a firm believer there's always a way to figure something out. Don't chicken shit out and go hide in a corner. Oh, woe is me. That's fucking stupid. I mean, because if you have that obstacle, you did something, you put some kind of effort to put you in a position that gave you this obstacle. So you have time invested. Why would you quit now? There's always a way around it. Go meet the right person. And to your comment, I would say there is a level of natural ability, but I firmly believe it can be taught. And I think it comes from two different areas. One being confidently comfortable in who I am. If you don't like me, I could truly give a fuck. And if you love me, we'll be best friends forever. Because who you know and who you love is who I am. I will never change. And with that confidence comes the ability to communicate with the right people and create the relationships that then provide the opportunities. And then from there, I'm simply just always looking. I'm just, hey, this sounds cool. Where can I make money here? Hey, this person's dope. They have this resources. Where can I make money here? I guess that's just the way I think is there's always a way to capitalize on money. I mean, dude, you got people who like trim bushes. I mean, landscapers, you know how much fucking money they make? A lot. And when I recognize that just the most minute tasks can make huge returns. It switched my mindset, because then what if you implement doing something not minute, badass? Imagine those returns. Imagine being a person who created that.
Yeah. So like, as I'm trying to figure out how to teach this class, I'm sitting there and I'm like trying to figure out like where I can teach someone the drive. And I'm like, okay, maybe I can't teach them the drive. And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, maybe it's the end goal that I'm so like, I was sitting there. I was thinking of like, I have an end goal of what I want. Right. And I started to think, I'm like, is that a need to me or a want? And I was like, it's actually not a want. Like, it's so like when I write down a goal, it's so needed for me to feel fulfilled.
Right.
And I felt like that was the starting point. I'm like, people say all the time, like, I want this, I want that. And then I'm like, whoa, like, let's slow down. And I'm talking to myself. This is self-talk. So like, I can say something like, I want that. And I'm like, wait, like someone texted me the day that I really respect and said, hey, what's your next goal now that you accomplished this one? I said, hey, give me a few days, because I don't throw around goals lightly, meaning like I'm going to think about this, because I realize like the goal means if it's going to take 3 months, there's going to be 2 hours of habits that I have to implement in my daily life, which means if there's 2 hours of habits that I don't want to do, that means there's going to be mental discipline, which is the most exhausting. And so I'm really like dialing it down to, I'm like, it really comes down to like, if you need this or want it. And the person just says like, oh, I want this, I want that. I'm like, I don't know, until you've sat down in your backyard, on a piece of paper and a calculator and really mentally plotted this out of what it's going to take to get there. It might just be a want that you're throwing around to make yourself feel good. But like when you need it and it's inside it, like when it's in your business core, like if you have it so like, because the hardest thing I think with making those goals is no one knows about them usually. So like who's going to be upset outside of yourself? So I'm like, you almost have to be your own internal, like you have to be embarrassed with yourself that you didn't accomplish what you told yourself, because unless you're just going to go out and like post it on social, this is what you're trying to accomplish and tell people to call you out in 3 months when you don't. I doubt most people have that type of emotional stamina. But like for myself, I'm looking at them like, if it's a need and you need it, then at that point, like you're going to actually not feel cool about yourself in like 3 or 4 months, and it's not going to sit well. So that's
a really interesting concept, is your whole point of thinking so precisely and, intensely about your goals, you not speaking so lightly of them. That's probably something I could implement myself, is because I'm a really impulsive person. My Lisa and my wife probably have felt it on both ends. My wife could slap the shit out of me, and even Lisa in the business mind, she's like, what the fuck? So that's a really interesting concept, is to really implement the goals, but be very careful about when you create them to be a reality, because once they're a reality, failing's not an option. It's you go figure it out.
Right. Yeah. So I just saw that, and I could see like the hunger, and like when we met, that's where I was just thinking, I'm like, man, that's why I'm like, can this be taught, or is it something where unless somebody actually just, you can't make them need it. You can make them maybe want it. They might desire what someone else has, but like, do they really want to put the discipline? Because like, it's, for example, like The Millionaire Real Estate Agent by Gary Keller. I remember when I got into real estate, dude, I would pass that book out to a lot of people, and just, it's like, yeah, that's what you got to do. And they're like, but I don't want to do that. I'm like, I know, but that's what you have to do. So it's like the book sounded sexy.
Yeah.
But you don't, like, the work was there, and the work.
100 million GCI.
The work.
Do this, and this. Yeah.
But it's like, you don't want to put in the daily 5, 6, 7 hours. So where do you think with the real estate market, as we're kind of wrapping up here, like, where do you see like our specific market going? Do you think it's going to get more brutal as far as over time, or what are your thoughts?
No, I don't. I think we're coming towards the peak. One, interest rates are starting to slow down, and two, I think the buyers who are still going to be in the market are going to understand what's going to be needed. And I think that competition, that competitive field, will take a lot of the emotion out of it. It'll just be, who's the finest, who's the fittest. And then I think that naturally will slow it back down. I think once we get back to a point where we have a balanced inventory, we'll start to see it slow down a little bit. But I think hold on to your britches until that actually happens. And just understand that I'm a firm, if you can make money now and you're successful now, let it go back to normal, and you should really be kicking ass. So figure out how to make it work now And then when it goes back to a normal field, even playing field, all the people who have just flooded our market, who have no business being in our market, even in the same conversation as us, go away, then you should really be able to grab a decent market share. That would be my thought process.
What's the number one thing you're working on right now? Like what's
Referrals.
That's right. So it's the referral game.
Systems. That's one. That is the number one. I have lead gen put in. I have the resources. I have the SOPs. I understand the systematical mindset of how to implement and make a standard. SOP. Who listeners who don't understand standard operating procedure. It's a step by step of, hey, do this, do this, do this, do this. I understand all that. I understand the systems. I can implement. Okay, these leads suck. Okay, now we're going to try these leads. I'm going to send them my VA. We're going to book my buyers. I'm going to book these sellers, and we're going to go do deals. I understand all that, but increasing your market share comes from implementing that, and then pulling a Bowers and just becoming this referral magnet that people are just constantly thinking of you. So that is our number one. That is 100% what Lisa and I have been spending every waking moment working on is postcards, referral systems, 30-day follow-up, HomeBot. Every 90 days, pick your 25% of your people and send them a text.
And every 4 days, text Chris and ask him a question, right?
Yeah. Oh, dude, 100%.
I knew you were going to say that was your number one. I can tell. Do you know what's cool about that, man? Is I have 2 people right now that I'm going to for stuff. And that's what I'm saying. We're the same breed. It never changes. It doesn't matter if you're closing 200, 300, 400 transactions. Like when that's your DNA, right. I have somebody right now that I'm in the talks with about an ISA, like bringing on an internal inside sales agent. And I'm just leaning into that. Like he's much better than I am at it. He's seen the blind spots for the last 3 years. So when I get those texts from you.
You have a contact that's going to help you find an ISA?
No, I have a person who's been implementing in their business super successfully for years. And so like, he's my go-to. So just like our relationship where you're texting me like, hey, what's up here? Yeah. He's that for me. So like, I just applaud it because I always will tell myself, be student and teacher in the same day. And I feel like that's the best zone to be in. It's the most rewarding spot to be in. Like when you're asking a question from somebody that day, answer one for somebody. And if everybody can just stay in that mindset, I feel like the market just keeps spinning correctly. I can still remember dude, when I was 22 years old and I had somebody teach me the short sell game and they didn't have any reason to teach it to me. I think they looked at me like a 22-year-old that looked 14. Right. Like they looked at me like their son and they're like, this guy's
I'm going to help this kid.
He's just showing up. I feel like he is due a break. And they told me their whole internal workings. That led me to, getting connect with a guy that got me in the REO game. And, you just realize I'm like, if people don't do that, then like, what's the point of doing this business? It actually could get probably pretty lonely as far as a real estate community. And I find that the real estate community is the coolest probably community to be a part of. Cause I know people who are in other businesses that they're like, we don't have like roofing conventions where we meet and talk about, like they do, but it's talking about like products they can buy. It's not how to run your business behind the scenes. So I think
people authentically sharing, sharing.
I think it's because we're co-opt in a way. I think that's how it initially started with, we co-op with each other. So we have 2 people on each side trying to make a transaction happen. I think it's a little bit of it. I think there's just good people out there, not always lean more with that. Dude, what's something that I didn't ask you that I should have asked you?
Didn't ask me that should have asked me. I would say, what's the number one area that would bring the fastest ROI? A very no bullshit answer. And personal development.
Okay.
What a lot of people forget about is I don't, most people do, is you are still a human being and you are still going to have difficulties in every aspect of your life. And if you don't have your home life situated, it's going to take away your energy from your business. If you don't have your inside spirit situated, it's going to take away energy from your business. So taking the time to understand that it's not as simple as waking up at 7:30 a.m. and immediately grinding. It's waking up at 7. Let's go get some morning sunlight. Let's go meditate. Let's go do our grateful journal. Let's go do a cold shower. Let's go do whatever your morning ritual looks like and understand that there's a deeper level of accountability to you as a human being and as a person that you owe to yourself. It's not always about what's going to bring me immediate money, but how do I show up the most powerfully and the strongest individual I can to not only support myself, but the people around me? That would be my biggest area.
Right on,
Is
man.
don't forget your internal.
Cool. That's awesome. So how can people connect with you? Social media, email? If somebody's listening to this has a referral for this area of the market or wants to reach out to you for any questions, how would they best reach you?
Honestly, you can reach my Instagram at marshal_nathe.com, Nathe. Super easy. Big ass white tatted guy. You can't miss me. And then other than that, honestly, dude, if you guys ever have questions, any of the listeners, you want to reach out, I'm an open book. Entrepreneur space as a whole, I do take pride in that I have networking figured out pretty decently, and just opportunity grabbing and how to take an idea and turn it into reality. Dude, hit my cell phone, 480-665-9430. I really don't give a shit. If I can help, I will.
Right on, man. Hey, Marshall, I appreciate your time and joining us and just going over your kind of playbook of what your business is. So I truly appreciate everything, man.
Yeah, brother. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, right on, buddy. Have a good day.
Yes, sir.
Bye, man.